Matthew Evans was no stranger to the finer things in life. In his late 70s, he had spent decades building a successful career in finance, retiring comfortably with a wealth few could imagine. His silver Mercedes gleamed in the Kentucky sun, an emblem of the life he had crafted for himself. But on this particular summer afternoon, even the cool hum of the air conditioner inside his car couldn't quell the rising frustration bubbling within him. He sat alone, fingers tapping impatiently on the steering wheel, waiting for a remedy to a problem he never expected to face: a flat tire. His estate was miles behind him, nestled in the outskirts of town, where the air was thick with the scent of wildflowers and grass. The car, once pristine and obedient, now sat helpless on the side of the road. The phone in his pocket offered no salvation, no signal, no help. After several attempts to call roadside assistance, Matthew leaned back inside. His usual command over his surroundings was absent here. This was unfamiliar territory, and for the first time in a long while, he found himself reliant on the kindness of strangers. Just as a wave of frustration threatened to overwhelm him, Matthew noticed a figure approaching in the distance. A young boy, no more than 13 or 14, walked steadily towards a stranded vehicle. His clothes were worn, a faded T-shirt and sneakers scuffed from countless adventures. But there was something about the way he carried himself, determined, confident, and unafraid. The boy's eyes scanned the Mercedes, narrowing thoughtfully before settling on Matthew. He gave a polite nod, his voice steady and clear. "Got a flat, sir?" Matthew nodded, a strange mix of relief and curiosity washing over him. Yes, I do. I was hoping for a bit of help. My phone won't get any signal out here." Without hesitation, the boy crouched beside the flat tire, his hands already moving with practiced ease. "My grandpa taught me how to change a tire last summer. Do you have a spare?" Matthew gestured toward the trunk. The boy opened it and retrieved the tools needed, working swiftly and skillfully, hands moving with a quiet confidence that seemed beyond his years. As Matthew watched, a humility crept into his heart, a feeling he hadn't known in years. He wanted to offer the boy something, some token of appreciation, but the young man remained focused, never once glancing up. After a few minutes, the boy finished the job, wiping his hands on his jeans and stepping back with a small, satisfied smile. "All done," he said simply. Matthew reached into his wallet and offered a few bills. "Here, take this. I really appreciate your help." The boy stepped back politely, raising a hand. "Thank you, sir, but I don't need anything. Just happy to help." Matthew stood there stunned, money still in hand, as the boy turned and walked away down the road. The encounter left him profoundly moved, though he couldn't quite grasp why. Later, alone in his sprawling estate, Matthew found himself replaying the scene again and again. That boy, his quiet dignity, his self-assurance, was unlike anyone Matthew had met in a long time. It was a kind of strength that wasn't born from wealth or privilege, but from something deeper, something real. His dinner remained untouched that evening as he sat in his study, surrounded by shelves lined with books he rarely opened. The ticking of the grandfather clock echoed softly through the room. He sipped his scotch slowly, the memory of the boy's confident smile lingering in his mind. Matthew thought about the worn shoes, the faded clothes, the dust on those young hands. It told a story of hard work, perseverance, and quiet pride. The next morning, Matthew could no longer resist the pull to find the boy, to thank him properly, to understand the life behind that earnest smile. He drove the same stretch of road, eyes scanning every figure, every shadow. Hours slipped by as he stopped at gas stations and diners, asking anyone who would listen. Finally, an older woman behind a cafe counter spoke up. "Sounds like you're talking about Elijah," she said, wiping her hands on her apron. "That boy's always helping folks around here. Lives with his mama over in Harlan." Harlan. The name echoed in Matthew's mind as he made a mental note. Thanking her, he headed toward the town nestled in the Appalachian foothills. The drive was scenic, with rolling hills and dense forests framing the road, but Matthew's mind raced ahead, wondering about Elijah's life as family and what had shaped such a remarkable young soul. Arriving in Harlan, Matthew found a town marked by modest homes and small businesses, the streets quiet and unassuming. Asking locals about Elijah, he was directed to a small, weather house on the edge of town. The house showed signs of wear, a sagging porch and peeling paint, but it was tidy, cared for despite the years. Matthew parked his car, hesitating as he prepared to knock. The door opened to reveal a woman in her early 40s, her face lined with the fatigue of life's hardships but softened by a kind smile. Her eyes held a sharp curiosity as she sized up the visitor. "Can I help you?" she asked. Matthew introduced himself and explained. "I believe I met your son yesterday, Elijah. He helped me with a flat tire." Her face brightened immediately. "That sounds like my Elijah. He's always helping folks," she said warmly, stepping aside to let Matthew in. Inside, the house was humble but inviting. Family photos adorned the walls alongside hand-drawn pictures that spoke of Elijah's childhood dreams. The furniture was old but clean. The atmosphere was one of quiet resilience. Matthew followed her to the backyard where Elijah was repairing a fence. The boy looked up in surprise, but smiled readily. "Hey, mister," Elijah greeted, wiping his hands on his jeans. "What are you doing here?" Matthew smiled nervously, feeling out of place in his tailored suit amid the simple surroundings. "I wanted to thank you again for your help. I couldn't stop thinking about it." Elijah shrugged, modest but genuine. It wasn't a big deal. But to Matthew it was everything. They talked quietly, Matthew sensing something extraordinary beneath Elijah's unassuming demeanor. The fence was patched with mismatched wood. The yard was uneven and sparse. Nearby, an old swing sat leaned precariously, its chains rusted and broken. The family's life was far from easy, but their spirit was strong. "You've got a good head on your shoulders," Matthew said sincerely. "Your mother must be proud." Elijah smiled, glancing back toward the house. "She works hard. I just try to help out." Matthew was silent for a moment, reflecting on his own past, a childhood spent learning the value of hard work and perseverance from parents who struggled but persevered. Somewhere along the way, he had lost sight of those lessons, swept up in wealth and status. Now, standing here, he felt a nostalgic ache and a quiet regret. Matthew decided then and there he wanted to help, not out of charity, but out of respect and gratitude for the lesson Elijah and his family had given him, a lesson about what truly mattered in life. But before he could offer, Elijah's mother called the boy inside for lunch and extended a sincere invitation to Matthew. Inside the modest kitchen, the aroma of freshly baked bread and roasted vegetables filled the air. The table was small, surrounded by mismatched chairs, but it was set with care. Matthew felt an unfamiliar warmth in this humble home that his mansion's grandeur never provided. Over lunch, Elijah spoke about school, friends, and dreams of becoming an engineer. His mother shared stories of the close-knit community, pride evident in her voice. Matthew listened, feeling connected in a way he hadn't for years. As the renovation project neared completion in the following weeks, the once run-down house was transformed. The sagging porch replaced, the roof repaired, and the rusty swing set replaced with a new one. Inside, fresh paint and polished floors breathed new life into the home. Matthew watched with pride as Elijah's curiosity for construction blossomed, shadowing workers and learning with enthusiasm. One evening, as the sun dipped low, the family stood on their renewed porch, marveling at the change. Elijah's mother, tearful, thanked Matthew for more than just fixing their house. "You've given us hope," she said softly. Matthew smiled, realizing that he, too, had found something precious, a reminder of the values he had nearly forgotten. As they sat together, watching the sky turn golden, Elijah expressed his dreams to help others someday, inspired by Matthew's kindness. "You already are helping Elijah," Matthew said firmly. "Never lose that." When Matthew left, Elijah and his mother walked him to the car, their gratitude and warmth etched into his heart. This was not an ending, but beginning, a new chapter of purpose, connection, and hope for all their lives. The days after the renovation began brought a new rhythm to Elijah's life. No longer burdened by the daily struggles of crumbling home, he found his spirit lifted with every plank laid and every nail hammered into place. The once weary backyard now echoed with the sounds of progress. Hammers tapping, saws buzzing, and laughter as neighbors stopped by to watch the transformation. Matthew Evans remained a constant presence, clipboard in hand, his demeanor shifting from a distant benefactor to an engaged mentor. It was clear that this was no mere act of charity for him. It was a rekindling of something long dormant, a return of values rooted in compassion and human connection. Elijah, meanwhile, was discovering new passions. What started as casual curiosity about the construction work quickly grew into a hunger for knowledge. He eagerly asked questions about the tools, materials, and techniques, soaking up information with the keen focus of a young scholar. One of the workers, Joe, a burly man with a kind heart, noticed Elijah's enthusiasm and took him under his wing, showing him how to measure wood and use simple tools safely. For Elijah, these lessons were more than just about construction. They were lessons in confidence and possibility. Matthew watched from afar, pride swelling in his chest. This boy, so full of potential, so grounded in humility, was a reminder of the kind of meaningful impact one could have when driven by genuine care rather than wealth or status. At the same time, Matthew's visits to Harlem became more frequent. What began as a desire to check in evolved into a deepening connection. He found himself welcomed into the community, invited to dinners, and included in conversations about the town's future. Each visit grounded him further, reminding him of the simple joys he had forgotten amidst the relentless pace of his former corporate life. The stories shared over cups of coffee, the laughter echoing through modest homes, and the resilience of people who made do with little. These were treasures no amount of money could buy. One evening, as the renovation project neared completion, Matthew and Elijah's mother stood on the porch, surveying the transformation. "This isn't just a house anymore," she said softly, emotion thick in her voice. "It's a home." Matthew nodded, his gaze lingering on the sturdy new railing and freshly painted walls. "You've done more than survive here," he replied. "You've thrived." She smiled, a light in her eyes that had been missing before. "Thank you for reminding us of what's possible." The day the workers packed up was a celebration in itself. Neighbors gathered, offering congratulations and small gifts, fresh bread, homemade jam, a potted plant, tokens of gratitude and community spirit. Elijah was in his element, racing around with his friends, his laughter ringing out clear and joyous as he showed off the new swing set and rooms that once felt like distant dreams. Matthew stood on the porch, leaning against a railing, watching the scene with a warmth that softened the lines on his face. In that moment, he felt a joy deeper than any boardroom victory or stock market gain, a joy born of giving back, of making a tangible difference in another's life. As twilight settled over Harlan, Elijah's mother brought Matthew a glass of iced tea and offered a simple but profound acknowledgement. "You've done more than fix a house," she said. "You've given us hope." Matthew accepted the glass with a nod, savoring the words. "I have," he admitted, "more than I realized I needed." In the weeks that followed, Elijah's newfound interest in building and mechanics blossomed into a dream. Matthew arranged for him to spend time with the construction crew, learning skills that could shape a future far beyond the limits of their small town. Elijah soaked up every lesson, his eyes bright with possibility. For Matthew, these moments were the true reward, a chance to witness potential unfolding, to nurture a young life ready to reach for something greater. Matthew's transformation was profound as well. Once consumed by the pursuit of wealth and status, he found himself drawn back to values long overshadowed by ambition. His trips to Harlem became less about obligation and more about belonging. He no longer felt like an outsider, but a part of something bigger, a community built on resilience, kindness, and shared purpose. One evening, as the sun set in a blaze of orange and gold, the three of them sat together on the porch, Matthew, Elijah, and his mother, watching the sky shift colors. Elijah's voice broke the comfortable silence. "Mr. Matthew, I've been thinking about what you did for us. I want to do something like that one day, help people too." Matthew placed a steady hand on the boy's shoulder. "You already are, Elijah. Your kindness started all of this. Never lose that." That night, as Matthew drove back to his estate, he reflected on the journey that had brought him here. The encounter on the side of the road, a flat tire and a willing hand, had sparked a transformation neither of them expected. He realized life's greatest lessons were often found in the simplest acts of kindness, in connections that transcend wealth and status, in the shared humanity that binds us all. For Elijah and his family, the future now held promise of stability, opportunity, and dreams nurtured in a home renewed by generosity and hope. For Matthew, it was a chance to rediscover purpose, to build bridges where walls had stood, and to live a legacy not measured in dollars, but in the lives touched and changed forever. As the seasons changed, so too did the lives of those touched by that fateful day on the roadside. Elijah's home, once marked by wear and hardship, now stood as a testament to resilience and renewal. The once sagging porch had been replaced with sturdy woodwork, the faded walls painted in warm, inviting hues. Inside, the air carried the scent of fresh paint and new beginnings, while outside, the laughter of children filled the air like a sweet melody. Elijah, once a quiet boy with little to his name, had blossomed into a young man brimming with ambition and hope. The spark ignited by Matthew Evans's generosity had kindled a fire within him, a determination to carve out a future not just for himself, but for those around him. His curiosity about construction and mechanics flourished into a passion, one that gave him purpose and a path forward. Matthew, for his part, found a renewed sense of fulfillment that no business deal or financial triumph could ever provide. He had stepped into Elijah's world as a wealthy stranger, but he left as a man transformed, reminded of life's true riches, hidden not in possessions, but in connection, compassion, and the courage to give without expectation. The bond between Matthew, Elijah, and his mother grew stronger with each visit. What began as a chance encounter had become a friendship grounded in mutual respect and shared dreams. Matthew often marveled at the strength of Elijah's mother, a woman who, despite life's trials, had nurtured a home filled with love and perseverance. Her unwavering dedication was a cornerstone for Elijah's growth and the foundation of their family's resilience. Together, they navigated the challenges of rebuilding not only a home, but a future. Matthew used his resources and influence to create opportunities for Elijah, arranging apprenticeships, mentoring, and educational support. For Elijah, each step forward was a tribute to the kindness that had altered his course, a promise to pay it forward in his own time. Word of Matthew's efforts spread through Harlan and beyond, inspiring others to look beyond circumstance and recognize the power of simple acts of kindness. The story of a wealthy man helped by a humble boy, and in turn lifting that boy's family, resonated deeply in a world too often divided by lines of wealth and status. Communities began organizing to support their own, driven by the example set by Elijah's family and the man who had seen their worth when few others did. It was a reminder that generosity was not the exclusive domain of the wealthy. It was a human quality, accessible to all who chose to embrace it. At a community gathering held in the town's modest hall, Matthew stood before a crowd of neighbors, friends, and local leaders. His voice carried the wisdom of a man who had lived many lives, tempered by the humility gained from his recent experiences. True wealth, he said, is found not in what we possess, but in the connections we build, the kindness we show, and the lives we touch. Elijah taught me that lesson, a lesson I will carry with me always. The room erupted in applause, but Matthew's eyes saw out Elijah and his mother, sitting quietly near the back, their smiles shining brighter than any spotlight. Back at home, as Matthew reflected on the journey, he felt a quiet peace settle over him. The pursuit of success, once so consuming, had given way to a greater purpose. His legacy would not be defined by numbers or accolades, but by the hope and opportunity he helped cultivate. Elijah's future stretched ahead like the open road, full of promise, possibility, and the unwavering knowledge that he was valued and supported. As the sun set over Kentucky hills, Matthew understood that sometimes the smallest gestures could change the course of many lives. The young boy with worn shoes and a steady heart had reminded him of what truly mattered. It wasn't the wealth accumulated or the power wielded. It was the courage to help, the willingness to listen, and the grace to give without expectation. And so, a new chapter began. One written not with gold or grandeur, but with kindness, dignity, and the simple truth that we are all connected, each capable of making a difference. If this story touched you, share it. Let's inspire each other to see beyond differences, to embrace compassion, and to build a world where every act of kindness lights the way for those who follow. Subscribe for more stories that remind us of our shared humanity and the power within each of us to change lives, starting with our own.